Okay, so you're thinking about buying your first home. That's so exciting. But let's be real, it can also feel kind of overwhelming, right?
Trying to navigate a maze blindfolded.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And that's where this deep dive comes in. We're going to arm you with all the essential questions to ask along the way. No fluff, just the good stuff to make you feel empowered, not overwhelmed.
Love it.
So we've got a great lineup of resources for this one. We're talking practical checklists from Mortgage Solutions, Financial and Property Fiable, a deep dive into market value from HKY Real Estate, Lending Tree breaks down loan types.
And of course, gotta love those frequently asked questions from USC Credit Union blog.
It's going to be a good one. So first things first, I know you're probably already browsing listings online, daydreaming about that perfect kitchen.
Guilty as charged.
But hold your horses for just a sec. Mortgage Solutions Financial reminds us that a little prep work goes a long way. I mean, you wouldn't build a house starting with the roof, right?
No way.
Exactly.
You gotta lay that foundation first. And speaking of foundations, Mortgage Solutions Financial brings up a really important point, understanding your budget.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, like, the price tag on the house itself.
Right, right.
You got closing costs, those fees for legal paperwork, title insurance, all that behind-the-scenes stuff. Plus, property taxes, insurance, those can add up.
Oh, tell me about it. I knew someone who got to closing and was totally blindsided by those extra costs. It was like ordering an appetizer and then being surprised by the whole bill at the end.
Ouch. Yeah, not a fun surprise. That's why getting pre-approved for a loan is so important. Both USC Credit Union blog and Lending Tree highlight this as like a crucial first step.
So it's like knowing how much house you can actually afford before you start falling in love with places outside your price range.
Exactly. Like setting a budget for your dream home shopping spree.
Love that analogy. Okay, so let's say we've got our finances in order, pre-approval in hand. Now the fun begins, right? Time to unleash those dream home fantasies. What kind of place are we picturing? Modern condo downtown, charming bungalow in the suburbs, farmhouse on acres of land. Property Waggable and Mortgage Solutions Financial have some awesome questions to get those creative juices flowing.
Let's hear it.
So, for starters, they've got you thinking about things like how much space do you actually need? Are you a minimalist at heart, or do you need room to spread out? And then, of course, there's the question of location, location, location.
Right.
Are you drawn to the hustle and bustle of city life, or do you crave the peace and quiet of the suburbs?
Big decisions.
Huge.
And it's not just about, like, the vibe of the neighborhood, right?
Mhm.
Mortgage Solutions Financials gets into the nitty-gritty, like, what about schools?
Oh, yeah, that's huge if you have kids or are planning to.
Exactly. And what about commute times? Are you okay with a bit of a drive, or do you need to be close to public transportation? These are all things to consider when you're thinking about location.
Totally. And then there's the house itself. Property Allable has a whole bunch of questions to help you narrow down your must-haves versus nice-to-haves. Like, how many bedrooms and bathrooms do you absolutely need?
Right. And don't forget about outdoor space. Are you dreaming of a big backyard for barbecues, or would you be content with a cozy balcony for your morning coffee?
It's all about priorities, and this is where it gets really fun because you can let your imagination run wild. Do you picture yourself in a sleek, modern kitchen with stainless steel appliances?
Ooh. Or maybe something more charming and rustic, with exposed beams and a farmhouse sink.
See, this is what I love. It's all about figuring out what feels like home to you.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, but HKY reminds us to, like, ground ourselves in reality a little bit, too.
Oh, right. Gotta keep it real.
Yeah, that Victorian mansion might seem like a dream come true, but could you actually handle the upkeep 5, 10 years down the line?
Good point. Those old houses can be money pits.
Right. It's about finding that balance between heart-fluttering features and, like, practical considerations.
Totally. We don't want you wasting time on houses that don't actually fit your lifestyle. Speaking of which, let's talk house viewings. Property Lowable has this treasure trove of questions to ask during a viewing, and some of them are real eye-openers. Like, did you know you should ask which way the house faces?
Really? Why does that matter?
Well, southern exposure can make a big difference in your heating bill.
Oh, wow. Who knew?
I know, right? It's those little things you don't think about. And don't forget to check the water pressure. Property Lowable reminds us that these viewings aren't just about admiring the staging, it's about gathering intel.
Yeah, you got to look beyond the surface.
Exactly. And HKY echoes this. They suggest you dig into property reports.
Property reports, like a Carfax, but for houses.
Exactly. It's like a background check for your potential home. It can tell you about any past issues, renovations, permits, all that juicy stuff.
So you can see if there are any red flags.
Exactly. It helps you understand the story behind the pretty facade, which can be super useful when you're...
Ready to negotiate. That's where the real game begins, right?
You bet. It's like you've been gathering information, asking questions, and now it's time to use all that knowledge to, like, negotiate the best deal possible.
Put on your poker face.
Haha, exactly. So what kind of intel are we talking about using here?
Well, property angeable suggests trying to understand the seller's motivation. Like, are they in a rush to move? Have they had other offers?
Oh, good point.
Knowing these things can give you some leverage. For example, if you find out from your agent that the sellers have already bought another house and are under pressure to close quickly, you might have more wiggle room to negotiate on price.
Fascinating. So it's about reading between the lines, looking for those subtle clues. I love it.
Exactly. And HKY adds another layer to this. Knowing the recent sales history of similar homes in the area.
Oh, so you can be like, look, this is what other houses are going for in this market.
Exactly. You've got data to back up your offer. Let's say you're aiming for a lower price. If you can point to recent comparable sales that support your offer, you're in a much stronger position.
It's like playing hardball, but with like facts and figures. I'm starting to feel like a negotiation ninja over here.
That's what we like to hear. And the best part is, this is just the beginning. Once you've mastered these basics, Property Cable says you can even start thinking about negotiating beyond just the price.
Wait, negotiating beyond the price? What do you mean, like throwing a free car?
Haha, not quite. Think more along the lines of, like, closing dates, appliances, maybe even some furniture. Let's say you totally fell in love with that vintage stove during the viewing.
Yeah.
You could totally try negotiating that into the deal.
That's brilliant. I never would have thought of that. It's like finding hidden treasure in the negotiation process.
Exactly. It's all about getting creative and thinking outside the box. Now, while we're on the topic of expanding our home buying toolkit, let's talk about loan types for a sec.
Right. Lending Tree and USC Credit Union blog both touched on this, but it can feel a little overwhelming, to be honest. There are so many options.
I hear you. It can be a lot to process. But that's why it's good to explore different options, right?
Makes sense.
For instance, VA loans are designed for veterans and often come with more flexible terms, like no down payment requirement, which can be huge. Then you've got USDA loans, which target rural areas and offer similar benefits to, like, encourage homeownership in those communities.
Interesting.
And of course, there are FHA loans, which are great for first-time homebuyers with lower credit scores, or maybe they don't have a ton of cash for down payment.
So many acronyms. So it's about finding the loan type that really fits your individual needs and circumstances.
Precisely, like finding the right key for a specific lock.
Okay, that makes sense. And speaking of finding the right fit, remember how USC Credit Union blog was all about trusting the experts?
Totally. Building your dream team?
Yes. So you've got your real estate agent, your loan officer. Have you thought about adding a financial advisor to the mix?
It's definitely something to consider, right? They can help you see the bigger picture, like how this whole home buying thing fits into your overall financial goals.
Okay, so it's not just about like qualifying for the mortgage. It's about making sure this purchase aligns with your long-term financial plan.
Exactly. It's about making sure you're set up for success, not just now, but like way down the line.
So it's like having a financial Sherpa guiding you through all the ins and outs of home buying.
Exactly. They can help you navigate those tricky paths and make sure you reach your financial summit.
Love that analogy. Man, I'm realizing there's so much more to this home buying thing than I initially thought.
Right. It's a journey. But that's what makes it so exciting. Every step is a chance to learn something new, refine your approach, you know.
Totally. And speaking of learning, I'm so glad we had this deep dive today. We covered a ton of ground, from budgeting and pre-approval to negotiations and loan options.
And don't forget those insightful questions to ask during house viewings, like, who knew that testing the water pressure was so important?
It's all about those insider tips and tricks. But seriously, I feel like we've armed our listeners with some serious knowledge today.
Absolutely. We've given them a solid foundation for sure.
Exactly. But remember, this is just the beginning, right? I mean, this deep dive is a great starting point, but there's always more to learn. Those articles we mentioned, those are gold mines of information. So don't be afraid to, like, dive back in and keep exploring.
Yeah, think of them as your home buying companions, you know? They're there to support you, inform you, and help you navigate any challenges that pop up along the way.
I love that. Okay, so to wrap things up, do your homework, ask those insightful questions, and most importantly, remember, Knowledge is power, people. The more informed you are, the more confident you'll feel throughout this whole exciting journey.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You've got this.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of first-time home buying.
Happy house hunting, everyone.
We hope you feel empowered, excited, and ready to find that dream home. Until next time.